Welcome to the Retic Rundown, where the giants roam and the legends are found. Uncoil the truth, the wisdom is sound in the Retic Rundown. We're breaking new ground. From the jungles deep to the captive scene, Retic rule the world if you know what I mean. With patterns so bold and sizes extreme, in the Retic Rundown, we're breaking new ground. Welcome to the Retic Rundown, where the giants roam and the legends are found. Uncoil the truth and let the wisdom resound. In the Retic Rundown, we're breaking new ground. Unlocking secrets of the serpentine kings, sharing knowledge, stories, everything it brings. From breeders to keepers, we pull the strings in the Retic Rundown. Hear the echo rings. Welcome to the Retic Rundown, where the giants roam and the legends are found. Uncoil the truth and let the wisdom resound. In the Retic Rundown, we're breaking new ground. Welcome, Retic lovers. Welcome, Retic lovers.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Retic Rundown. And so for now, it's just me. Chris got stuck at work for a little bit, but we are going to hit it full force anyway. So tonight, man, we're going to talk about kind of the ultimate guide to a new Retic. And I got a feeling this might end up being kind of going a little bit, maybe a couple more episodes when we, really start talking about, everything prior to. But along with that, guys, as you hear what I'm talking about, if you got questions or you got a point you want to bring up for us to discuss, I'm all for interaction tonight. It's going to help keep things rolling. But all right, so tonight, man, we're talking about the ultimate guide to a new Retic, and it's kind of what I want to talk about is going into buying that first Retic. Well, actually, hang on. Let's see who all's in here. So we got Cuddle Time Critters, what's going on? Patrick, RO, Keys Constrictors, what's happening? We got Python Prince, James Perry, what's happening, James? All City, James B, Jay Lunsford, what's going on? Hey, what's up, Sammy? All right, so good to see all you guys in here. So let's talk about it, man. So, all right, so being in sales, doing what I do full time, and for the guys that do it part time, I know that it's a big frustration. When we talk about it, where you got somebody that's inquiring. So, guys, as a customer, I want you to go out. I want you to inquire Morph Market. We got Facebook, all those places, right? Let's talk about what it is when you're going to talk to your breeder, and really lining it out to make sure that you're coming in and not wasting your time, not wasting their time, So one of the things I know that I get a lot, and I'm curious to see if anyone else that sells, is you'll get a customer, everything's looking good, right? You're running down, and then they're like, you get to the end, and they're like, well, can you hold it for me for 6 weeks? I just inquired about my enclosure. They told me it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks before I get it. Can you hold this snake, right? Some people, some breeders, guys, they will do that, right? And then some won't. So you got to be prepared for that. But I will say that if you come to me, it's kind of a cart before the horse thing, right? If you're going to not have done the research for what your setup should look like, what is a good, a lot of people now are trying to do the bigger setups, right, for baby Retics. So 4x2x2s, I love it. I'm all about it. But if you're going to put a baby into an enclosure that big, you need to do some research on like how to set that up and be prepared, because I do get a lot of people that will, they set up a big 4x2x2 and it looks great. And then they're like, 3 weeks later, my snake won't eat. Okay, it's probably stressed because it's in a wide open enclosure. For Retics, the hide size matters as they grow. So things like that. And that's where, guys, doing your research on what that enclosure should look like, what you're going to put it in. If you're a first-time owner, don't put the cart before the horse. I know it's fun to look at the snakes. I know it's you're going through it, it's like, oh man, that's the one, but man, not everybody can hold it for you guys. So I think out the gate, when you're starting to look for your retic, um, really the start should be with what are you going to set it up in? What do you have for an enclosure? Do you know what the temps are? Do you know what the humidity should be? Making a decision if you're going to go full bioactive, partial bioactive, paper, all those things can make a major, major difference, right? And how long it's going to take you to get set up, things like that. So looking at that out the gate, I would say that that's probably one of the first things that as a customer, especially if you're a new customer, you should be looking at. I think I have found that experienced customers do start, especially if they were the first ones to, or if their first snake, they did that and then they realized how much of a hassle it was. They definitely start to be like, okay, I got to get an enclosure ready. I got to have it set up. Whether it's quarantine type enclosure, they put it right into it, but they start to see that. So if you're a new one and you're coming in and you're looking for a retic, definitely start with your enclosure. Don't put the cart before the horse. When it comes time, you start talking to your breeder. I don't know about you guys, and I know it. Well, I do know because I see the frustrations that come out on like Facebook with the messages as you're talking, and then they just leave you unread. And I know that's a frustrating thing. You can't get caught up on it, and it does feel like a waste of time. So guys, if you're a customer, I definitely want you to understand it's okay if that price doesn't work for you. If you decided to go with another snake, whatever reason, but if they're taking the time out to respond, at least closing that loop, that's a huge thing. And you're going to get a lot more respect out of your breeder, especially if you start asking them about, say, other snakes, But if you're leaving me on red and you're asking me about 4 or 5 snakes all the time, then you're going to start to get a different response, from your breeders as a whole. So, all right, Jason, I'll get to that one in a minute. But okay, so yeah, as a whole, guys, at least close that loop. That's respect. I definitely, as a new keeper, I will tell you, you will get farther closing that loop because it feels like you're at least respecting that breeder's time. They took the time to answer you. You just leave them on red. Man, it's going to be if you continue to ask and you're out shopping, I definitely would tell you closing that loop is going to get you farther along with your breeder, especially if you're asking about multiple animals. Doing the research too. Okay, all right, hang on. Let me make a note here where I'm at, and we'll answer Jason real quick. So let me write this down so I don't get lost where I'm at. Okay. So be honest. Do you smile or cringe when you get a text asking about a random animal ID from the backlog? It doesn't bother me. Like for the reach out reptile side of it, we have our log system, your clutch ID, your animal ID. I don't have an issue looking that stuff up. For anyone, especially if it's an animal that you've either bought or, if you're looking to buy from maybe someone else, because sometimes things happen, or even if it's something that's in your collection, whatever it is, I don't mind doing that. What I would say is on my end, think about like the timing of when you're asking, and if it takes me a minute to get back, just because that's like, if I'm dealing with like a customer where it's a sale, right? Then I'll be like, okay, cool. I seen your text. I will get back to you, and I try and follow up. And I try to be pretty good about that. I know that I do get messages lost in the system sometimes. and don't feel free to remind me, like, hey, you didn't hit me back. I'm okay. Like, I do field a ton of messages, but I mean, I guess Jason, like, when is there a specific question to, like, a random animal from the backlog that you're wanting to know about? Or is there a specific question that comes along with, what's the question, I guess, that would go with that random animal ID? So, what's up, Whiskey Bomb? But, all right, I'll give Jason a minute, see if he follows up with that. I'm sure he will. But getting back, so doing research on your morphs, right? I know I get a lot of questions, or I get a lot where it's like, I want this, I want a male, I want high percentage. We've gone through those before, talking about size versus percentage, stuff like that. And then they'll be like, I have no idea what morph. I'm just brand new. I just seen them. Um, so I'll definitely send a bunch of kind of like different photos that fit the rest of your criteria. Say you want something that's, estimated going to get 7 to 9 feet, a male, and under $1,000, but you don't know what morphs you like or what fits. Cool. Let's send some photos back and forth. Let's figure out what's pretty, and that works for a pet 100%. I think that makes it very easy because they're looking for what's eye catching. If you're looking for a pet, if you think that you want to breed, then I think that's important to talk to your breeder about. And when if you think you want to breed in the future, definitely come prepared, or at least somewhat prepared, for like, what do you want to create? And then in my opinion, if you got a good breeder, they're going to help set you up for success by trying to figure out, all right, what do you want to breed? What is within your budget? What is within your size constraints and stuff, whether it's mainland or super dwarf, either one. But you take that information, you guys, as a customer, if you think you want to breed, you definitely got to have a vision, or you got to be able to like ask for help for a vision. And I know that getting into it and knew that you're talking to a lot of, you're talking to a lot of different people, and there's a lot of opinions out there. So with that, know what you want. If you're getting opinions from other people and it kind of you're worried or you're contradicting, go back to your breeder, or if it's me, come back to me and say, hey, like, this is what I heard. Give your breeder though a chance. Not everybody's like out there trying to screw you or anything like that. There's a lot of honest people out there, but you got to give them an opportunity. And just because someone else told you something different after the fact, and now it's casting a doubt, that's where information is going to allow you to make an informed decision. I think the more information that you have, and that's where I say it's great to go out, talk to all these other breeders and getting on the Facebook pages, stuff like that. I think that's great to go out and get that information. And that helps you to do your research. So I'm all for that. But just because immediately, one person says something that maybe alters a little bit or casts a doubt, I think you owe that to your breeder to go back, talk with them, say, hey, this is what I heard, or this is it. And then, have a chance to talk with your breeder. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of contradictory information, and with that, I think that the more information you gather, then that's how you kind of look at it and you decide, who is it that you trust in the industry? Who is it that you're going to follow? And go from there. So, but getting back to, if you decide that you want to breed, listening to your breeder, I think any breeder will tell you that it's better to get a female, earlier than a male. Males will breed usually, on the super dwarf side, 18 months to 2 years, whereas your females, you're looking like 4 years. So it would make sense. And that's where your breeder is trying to help you out in your timelines, and make sure that if you're buying stuff, that you're not spending money frivolously. And I say that from experience, like it's exciting and it's fun. And then you start playing the calculator cowboy on morph market. And I'm like, you're like, oh, I can work this recessive and stuff. And it becomes a lot, and you end up with a lot of snakes real quick. So I think going in with a focus, guys, for if you're going to have a breeding plan, and then discussing that, so that, because I'm fully convinced, no matter what, whether you come to us, whether you come to, you want to go the big route and go to like Jake Klotz and Weston, and if you discuss it with them, though, they want to see successful clutches done, right? And so especially with your recessives and everything, they're going to try and help you out to make sure that you're breeding for what you're looking for. But you got to have an idea what you're looking for. I know a lot of them. I get a lot of questions where it's like from the money side, and if it's all money, then I think I try and tell people that, because I've definitely had people ask where it's like, what is the most, profitable? And I can give you an idea on that. But if it's only that and you don't like looking at your snakes, I don't think you're going to enjoy it. You're not going to stick it out long term, right? All right. So J&S, don't mess up. Don't buy a dwarf when you want a super dwarf. Oh, yeah. James, like, okay, hit me up. Like, I'm not sure if you breed crested or Leos or Vilcanians, but I can tell what a lot of my Leo morphs are and a few of my crested morphs are. And also, so we don't breed those. But I do have I got a Chihuahua gecko. I got a lychee on the way. But we at Reach Out, we don't breed those. But you should be definitely able, if you're going to breed, you should be able to tell your morphs for sure. So, Busters, Jason. You always do a job when I do that to you. But does that style work for knowledgeable buyers, or is there a more preferred method? I think that knowledgeable buyers should absolutely exercise that knowledge, and go hunt. So yeah, no, I'm good with it. I think that if you see something, and you're like, hey, does this work? Or I have this vision. Guys, you gotta have a freaking vision, man. Gotta have a vision. I think, that's how you get that really crazy, awesome stuff, and there's guys that are excellent at showing you that, like Shane Costello, his Orange Glow and Purple Super Sun OGS stuff. I mean, it is awesome, right? He had a vision, and he focuses on that. I think that's what I'm talking about, like looking at a vision and having it, and then being willing to chase the project, right? Those long-term projects, especially in recessives, they take time, and it's going to make it. So stuff like that, yeah, definitely. If you're an experienced buyer and you see something that you think is going to work, go for it. I love it. So, because I love seeing that knowledge is increasing. Garrett, he definitely put it in. For me, built it in. I asked a lot of questions to a lot of people, learned a lot. So yeah, definitely. I think if you are going to be an experienced buyer, you should be looking not just relying on someone else's vision, for sure. So, so you get through all that, right? You get to the part where you are sitting here and you're, all right, I got a vision. You've got it worked out. You get through the payment process, all that part of it. And then we're talking about shipping, guys. You hit that next point where you're looking at the arrival of your snake. And this is the part that everybody's like in anticipation. And then they're always worried with shipping. And it's a nerve-wracking thing. I get it. But hub or home, guys, I always suggest shipping to a hub. Take that time out and just go over to the hub. That way, if anything happens, it's sitting there in a climate controlled condition. And when you get there, you can either do it there or just as soon as you get home, but get that snake out of that box, inspect that snake, look it over. And then within that first couple hours, if there's anything major that you see, you should be letting your breeder know 100%. If you feel like they overlook something, or retics are notorious pushers. They show up with a swollen lip. If they didn't go in like that, that does happen. But talk to your breeder so they know if there's any kind of an issue, because generally it's like a live arrival guarantee. You're dealing with live animals. Once they hit you guys, wherever you're at, that's out of that breeder's control. And there's a lot of factors there where something could happen to that snake that it's not on the breeder. Not to say that there ain't a lot of people, or there aren't breeders out there that we definitely know have sent sick animals and stuff. And that's what I'm saying. That should be your first thing, is looking that snake over. And then I will say, like, when you look that snake over, guys, it's like that new car, right? Even if it's like buying a used car, right? New to you. And you're like excited. And then after a little bit, you start to notice the little things you overlooked, right? Because you were excited about the new car. 24 hours later, take the time, let that adrenaline come down, really inspect that snake again, look over everything, and make sure that that snake's, good, it's healthy. And if there is anything, talk to your breeder. I can't stress it enough, because if you do find something, if it's something that looks like it's minor and that your breeders can help you walk through, cool. But if it turns into a major thing, then they have that, they have that information up front. And so if it does turn bad, it's not like they're caught off guard later, right? So if there's a delay, right, in shipping, guys, open the box. Like if it was 2 days in shipping, especially if it's going to a hub, open that box immediately right there in front of everybody. Look for life. And I highly encourage you to video it, video it and stuff when you're opening that box, because that's all, for the insurance side of it. When we have to make that claim, say with Ship Your Reptiles, that video will help us be like, okay, no, this is the way they opened it. Boom, there's nothing on the backside that's being shady. But if they're going through, they're getting stressed out, a little bit for sure. But if they're packed well, but they are going through, they're getting on a plane. So when that snake arrives, it's going to be a little stressed out. Don't be surprised. Open it up, let it chill out 24 to 48 hours, right? 24 to 48 hours, kind of acclimate to whatever their new environment is. Because if they're coming from a breeder, you don't know, if it's from us, they're in a rack system with tubs. A lot of them are like that. You get it from, say, Abby over the curly hair keeper. I know that she's keeping all her babies in 2x2x2s, right? So that are, full bioactive setup. So it's, they're going from one thing to a different environment. With that, I definitely say give them that 24, 48 hours, see how they're acting and everything else, and then go from there. The one question I always get after the fact that is always funny to me is like, when was the last time it ate and what size was it eating? And it's always an afterthought. Oh, yeah, it sounds like Ashley. She'll take care of that. That's Ship Your Reptiles, man. They hired her. They got a good one. She don't play. So, all right. Lost my train of thought. Where was that? Got there delayed. Oh, if it's delayed, yeah, definitely open it up, right, and check it out. Right there, do a video if it's delayed, because like I said, that's going to help us. It's going to help you. Also, it shows whether or not that breeder actually packaged it well. So that's another thing that's going to be a major deal. Once it gets there, you're letting it relax. Oh yeah, we were talking about that question. Was it eating? And then I would tell you guys, if you're a new buyer or even not a new buyer, ask it before it ships, because it helps us to look at whatever, I know with the super dwarfs, different sizes, different clutches, they'd be on slightly different. They're all kind of around the same size, but knowing that answer 100% before it ships is always good. I know that we feed once a week, so your snake will have always ate the week before. It shouldn't eat the week of shipping at all. If your breeder's shipping out a snake with food in its belly, that's not a good breeder. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. But if you're the one that always is funny to me, I think is the experienced keeper, someone who's I know's got several snakes. And then when they come behind and ask that question, it's always kind of funny to me because it's like, guys, you've been through this process several times. And when the snake gets there, you could look at, you should be able to look at it and say, okay, it's eating this size. Maybe not. Maybe that's just a me thing, but I think it's fun. I think it's funny. Just because I know if I was to buy a snake, and this is whether it's a baby or an adult, and I know we're kind of talking babies right now, but a lot of this process, it's going to apply to a subadult or an adult snake too, is when they get there, guys, they're going to be a little razzled from getting not jostled around and shipping. So you give them that. And I tell everybody 24, 48 hours, try and give that snake a meal because settling into a new space with a full belly always seems like it's a little bit easier. But it'll tell you too if they don't eat. And I tell them offer it 24, 48 hours. If they don't eat, give them that week and then they'll be hungry and they'll want to eat. If they keep going off food from there, then that's where we really got to look at it and say, okay, what is, I'm helping people in California. So like I always start with the easiest questions of like, what's your temperatures? What's your humidity? Can I see a picture of the enclosure? Can I see what the interaction is between you and the snake, right? Because I'm going based off what you're telling me, as well as trying to get, the video interaction so I can see it or, look at what your enclosure setup looks like. Like I said, a lot of them in the beginning, they'll want to put them into a big enclosure, but there's and then I'll see their hides. They're like massive, right? One thing I'll tell you about retics, that size of hides matters as they grow because a retic likes to expand itself and feel itself against the sides, right? That's how they feel secure. So if you're giving them, if you're giving a baby one of those medium plastic hides, it can get back in there and it can hide and it's kind of dark, but it can't spread itself out. So size of your hides or what you're giving them to feel secure. That's why you find them at 2. I found out that a lot of times, they'll be like, hey, my snake's soaking in the water bowl all the time. Okay. First question always is mites, right? Do you see any little black, bugs, anything like that that's crawling on it? And a lot of times it's no. So then my next question will be like, okay, can I see a picture of like what your enclosure is? And honestly, what it is that bowl is the smallest, tightest thing, and they're all spread out against it, and they're feeling secure. So looking at that, guys, is really important. The hide size, that's one thing that really does need to grow with your retic in order to make them feel secure. And they also don't have to be expensive. For me, I'll tell you, because they outgrow hides so quick, I go to Walmart, get those black plastic to-go containers for like food, cut a little hole in it, and then they've got the little ones, and they just work great. They stack up, they're cheap. They're like $5 for 5 of them. And the other side of it is with the lids too, they work great for humid hides as well. So, that'll give you guys something, when you're setting up, make sure you're giving them a hide that is going to be on point for their size. From there, like I said, if you have multiple snakes, my next thing would be like, get it on whatever feeding schedule. These are the kind of questions that I get asked a lot. Like, okay, when did it eat? You got the people, maybe it's their first snake, where they're like, I want to replicate exactly what it has to make it less stressful. I really don't think it does that. I think that what it's going to do is when that snake gets there to you, it's in a new environment, and you should give it the environment that you want to raise it in and interact with it in. So, I'm all for quarantine. Definitely quarantine your animals, especially if you got a large collection. And that can be whatever it is. But once you move it in, like, for us, they're on paper, guys. If you want to put it on a full bioactive, it's going to be okay. I promise you, once it gets there, right? Once you get past that part of it, man, I think positive interactions is going to be your next thing. Um, definitely working on hook training. We work on hook training. I don't know about every other breeder. I think a lot of them do, with the babies to try and get it started. For you guys, if you're a new customer, I know we do. We work on it. And so continuing that is definitely going to be something that you have to do and keep going back for, right? Um, it's kind of like same thing. I approach working with my snakes same way that I approach working with my dog. Is it's all about that consistency. It is 100% about consistency. So, all right. So let's see what we got. So training. I'll make a note. Says paper's the way to go. You just have to change it every time they pee. I agree, especially if you have a lot of snakes. Logan, 100% agree with you. Paper comes in, it's easy. The key there, though, with paper, guys, is if they pee, man, or if it's wet, you got to get it off because it will stick, and then you got to deal with that. So don't let it, be down there checking it out. Change that paper. It doesn't take that long. Really, it's like pretty much a 10-minute job, even for any size of enclosure, if you don't let it get bad, right? So, I'm a fan of paper. I know that I've got friends though that are, fans of the bioactive, and it works great too. So, 10 pack extra large size. Each one has smaller size. Hey, they're cool. Jason, nice. Did not know that. But yeah, keeping up with hook training, guys, it's consistency. I know that I've had people that are like, tell me like, oh, I can just reach in. I mean, you can, and it's all about knowing your snake for sure, guys. But it's just going to take that one time, and you get a bite. I think it's just better if you maintain consistency with these animals, so that they know, right? I think that is the best thing for them, and where you're going to get the most positive interaction is like not throwing weird stuff at them for them to react to. Um, so however you're going to be consistent with it, that's the consistency you need to stay with. I think just kind of like with a dog, if you start changing it up all the time, you see them, they get confused. So, going back, hook training, that's a major one, and sticking with it throughout the life of the snake, just for the ease of not getting complacent, because you get complacent and that's how you get bites. Honestly, I mean, anyone that's got a bite will tell you, like, man, when you look at it, like I did something wrong, So so keep that consistency up, guys, when you get your new snake. Past that, what would be the next spot that I get hit on a lot? Let's talk about positive interactions. Because that one, a lot of people ask me, well, what does a positive interaction look like? Oh. Positive interaction is like if you're going to let that snake bow up to you, I think you're going to set a standard, right? Same thing with, if you set a standard with hook training, you can also set a standard for bad behavior. So past that, if you can get them to be like where they're not defensive, they're wanting to go away, and then they're wanting to interact, get those long tongue flicks and be around you. That's what you're going to see. And those type of interactions are what you want to continue to happen. Right now, I know I've got a customer that I'm working with that he's just having a hard time with this one snake. And he's trying everything, doing everything. I'll give it to him. He doesn't want to give up on it. And I'm having a hard time, helping him figure that one out, right? Because it's obviously a long distance away, but I work with, I've told you guys before, I work with, a lot of nasty snakes. I think it takes time, but he's having a rough time. So, with him, it's been a new one, and I'm looking at that. I've been trying to figure that one out. And I think, man, when it goes back to that consistency, and I've got to continue to help him. Sorry, I got sidetracked on that one, but Python Prince, do you have any yourself that you breed or work with more for temperament to appease just people in the pet market? Or do you have any more if you suggest for a first timer not to get? So I definitely like I do breed. I've got about 60 of my own. So I breed as well as, breeding at the shop and stuff too, working there. And I definitely think that each snake has its own personality. I think that I've seen it where I know some of the parents have been more rambunctious, and I think that their babies are more rambunctious. I've talked with other breeders about that, and I think that the closer they are to wild caught, um, my theory is the closer they are to wild caught, the more that mentality of wild caught is there. Um, and versus like, the more that they are captive bred, the more that they understand and interact with the fact that humans are a part of their world. Um, so I've definitely can say that I've seen clutches where, I can just reach in and they've been absolutely dolls from word go. And then I've had some where they haven't been. So I think to appease people just in the pet market, when somebody asks me for sure, hey, I'm looking for something that's really nice, I go down and I'm like, okay, I'm looking for that one that's going to interact in a way that isn't going to be a spicy one. Um, do I think 100% that you can breed 100% for temperament? I don't know. I'm not convinced that you can 100% breed for it. Um, but I think it's on to something. Like I said, I think the lines that we have seen that we have captive bred them for a long time, that's what I see, where I see that they are more interactive and easier to deal with people. And I think it's just something that kind of passes on. Because obviously, with snakes, it's all about what they kind of learn and know. That it's not like mom's teaching them, right? So it's not like dad's teaching them. So I think that kind of becomes instinctual. But man, that's a lot. I don't know. I think for the pet market, yeah. All right. And then a morph, you would suggest a first timer not to get. I don't know that it's necessarily morph. I know for a while people were saying pieds were, being the closest to wild caught that we'd had in the US. They were fairly rambunctious, and I definitely seen some pieds like that. But I mean, I also have a mainland pied down there that is just as chill as anybody. So I don't know that I would say morph. I would just definitely, if you want something that's for the pet and going to be sweet, just express that to your breeder. So let that pit crow grab you once and you'll learn. Yeah, 100%. I've had a couple of them. James, I've been knocking on the cage 3 times when I feed her, hoping she'll learn it's feeding time when she hears the taps. Let us know how it goes. I mean, Lori Torini's shown and proven that, they can be trained, target trained, based on a disc and stuff. So I think it's absolutely plausible that, with consistency, I think the taps might work. Let us know how that goes, man. I'd love to know. Jim, what's going on, Johnson? Jim Tissetti, what's happening, man? What would you do with a young snake that runs a lot? All right, so I'll be honest, like if I have a young snake and it run, it's like always wanting to run, always seems like it's got this burst of energy. I kind of look at them like the way I do with my dog when he first gets out of the kennel after being, and he's just like, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. So I let him out and I let him go. I'll put him onto a like microfiber type blanket, where they really can't get any grip. And it's almost like I'm running on a treadmill, man, and just let them burn some energy. And I think that, when they burn that energy, it's kind of, then I take that same, it's that same approach as I do with training my dog. I get that energy down where now they're focusing. And so I think, especially if you keep them in a smaller enclosure, now they're like, oh, I'm out and I got to explore, right? So I think once you get that energy level down, then you start to get a better response out of them for what you're looking for. Tell me what you think. Try that. But I definitely know it's worked for me like that. Yeah, Jason, right? So, I mean, it's worked. It's definitely worked for me. I know, I've got an adult like that. She's a pure Coyote, and man, she doesn't ever. And now she's hit a size where down in my snake room, it's like she's too big to really do that with, unless I put out a full blanket. And even then, like my place is tight to be able to do that. So from there, as they get bigger too, I just sit here and do the underhand overhand thing. Let them run, let them run, let them run. If you can get them out, a lot of times though, I think they're just looking to burn a little energy. Because we keep them out, or we keep them in smaller enclosures. I don't care how big your enclosure is. Unless you're put them into like that 23-foot container that we're building for Karma. It's limited room. So I think if you've got one, maybe also something else would be giving them something inside their enclosure to, give them more stuff to climb, and stuff like that. Because obviously they got energy to burn. So let me know how that works for you, Jim. So I do want to talk about like on the, switch it over. Like if you buy an adult, right? Let's talk about an adult. Or even like a sub-adult, something that's 2, 3, 4 years old. Guys, that when you're opening that bag up, you definitely got to be ready for a different animal, because you're talking about an animal that was raised by someone else. Excuse me. And you don't know, exactly what that attitude is. And this is also where you don't get compliant, because that older animal can definitely, put a lot more hurt than a little knuckle tag on your by a baby, right? So just come into it at a very cautious and try and read that. I like to try and let that snake open the bag, let it come, set it down, let it come out on its own, just because it's not as easy of a control mechanism, right, with a bigger snake. But same thing, putting it into, its enclosure, giving it time to settle in. And I think with adults, I generally try to let them settle maybe a little longer, like 3 or 4 days before I really start messing with them, just because they were very established, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, I was an Army brat, or I was in the Army, not an Army brat, but my kids were Army brats and they moved around with us, right? My youngest son he's a trooper, man. He moves all the time, every couple of years, and they're resilient to it. And I think that's kind of the same mentality with a young one versus like you get older, if you're used to it, you get a breeder that's been somewhere else, they're definitely very established to what they were living in. So I definitely would tell you guys that too. Thinking about buying breeder females, don't expect them. They might lay for you that first season, but a lot of times they got to get comfortable wherever they're at. It might be 1, 2, 3 seasons before they do. I've had that happen as well. But getting that idea of just not getting complacent is a big one for me with adults, guys. All right, where was I at? Man, I got off on questions, and then so we were doing hook training. Let's get into and then food. All right, so I will tell you guys, the snakes are being fed wherever they're at. I promise you, they're being fed, but they're not being fed to get huge. I will say that, right? So don't, when your snake gets there, you're going to get it on your feeding schedule. You're going to see a jump, and you're going to see a jump in size pretty quick, just because everything, when they're first going, the first 2 years, they're trying to put on all the length they can. Those babies are in the mindset, the bottom of the food chain. They're trying to put on all that length. So if your snake's jumping up because you're feeding it good in length, don't be surprised at that. But then they're going to slow down based on their genetics. You know, they're going to hit an endpoint. You're going to see them start to widen out. So when you're talking about you got your first snake, it's coming in. I will tell you what retics. What we do is the first 2 years we feed every week. You know, this is how I do it. I feed every week for the first 2 years. Appropriate size meal, give them a lump, lasts about 24 hours, and you know they're getting it. From there at 2 years old, I will bump up their meal size and go to generally like 10 to 14 days, somewhere in that arena. And then start feeding them a little bit heavier meal, might last more like 36 hours. But it spaces it out. So, so you got that. Males, I know a lot of people are going to maintenance feed them. It's that's your choice. If the male's going to hit the size it's going to hit too. I'm going to tell you guys that based on genetics, So, but if you maintenance feed it, it might stay smaller. I say, do you want to be maintenance fed? I say, feed them. But James Perry, do you recommend a variety diet or the same prey item? So I think a variety is a great thing, right? Daniel Solis did multiple trips to the islands, and we know that they and the islands are eating bats as their primary source, right? That's a mammal, but they're hollow, smaller bones. I think over here they're getting a very different diet of, that's much higher in calcium and fat. With when you're talking about rodents, you're talking about pigs, you're getting a lot higher calcium. So I'm a firm believer that I think rabbits are great because they're very lean. I think chicken is great because it's hollow boned and lean. But what I will say is that if you're going to go with a variety diet, don't be surprised when you switch from if I've been on rats and I give them, chicken or a duck or any kind of quail, something like that. Oh man, the poops are going to be nasty, guys. So just be prepared for that when you change their diet. I think that if you're keeping a consistent rolling, then I think they'll be all right. But if you've been on one and then it goes just of a complete 100% switch, you're going to see a real change in. Every time I've switched from to birds, it's definitely been really runny the first couple of times. So that make a mess, but I think it's a good thing for them. But obviously, they're also going to thrive on one diet as well. So Logan says pigs are the worst. Oh man, you ain't telling me nothing because I feed pigs to my adults, and it's pretty rough. It is, yeah, for sure. It is pretty rough with pigs, but I'm all for a varied diet, guys. Varied diet's going to be a great thing. Trying to think what was the next question I had? Where did I get? I had it, and then I started reading comments. You know me. I don't know. It'll come back to me. You guys got anything else? It'll hit me. Sorry. Getting towards the end, and I'm trying to wrap my brain through everything on this one. Man, I am having a brain fart. Sorry, guys. I didn't smoke, man. I didn't smoke. That's funny though, Logan. I didn't smoke. I was just sitting here trying to go through everything. But y'all know me. I'm really bad. I start reading and I squirrel, and then I lose my train of thought. That's why I'm taking notes. Well, I don't know. Maybe it won't go too far. For Reptilinks, so we've definitely fed Reptilinks at the shop. Reptilinks, I think they're a great varied diet. But man, retics, they have a hard time. I've had them eat them, but if they squish the casing and everything, if they pop that, then it's a mess and they don't eat it. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't know that they're the best for snakes. I think they're great for something like monitors. and anything like that it's going to eat it as a whole. So enclosure size reality versus myth. What do you mean, Jason? Give me that. Reality versus myth. Like, do they need a huge enclosure? Do they need a small enclosure? As far as, Mike, what you said, do you think an animal should be fed exclusively? Yeah, you're right, Jason. Stomping on toothpaste too. But exclusively Reptilinks, I don't see a reason why they couldn't. I mean, it's a ground sausage of a whole prey. So I think they definitely could. And I think it's definitely good for someone who has more of an issue with the idea of whole prey. But then I think you definitely need to look at the animal you're buying and decide whether or not they can eat a Reptilink. I just wouldn't feed Reptilinks exclusively to retics, especially as they get bigger. A, they're expensive, and B, like I said, that casing busts, and then it's nothing. It just really is. So, but yeah, yeah, Jason, yeah, try stomping on too, and that's Reptilinks. So, okay, gotcha. Realistic enclosure size need versus the rhetoric. So, everybody asks me, a lot of people are changing the idea that they want the smallest enclosure possible. That's changing, and I love that, right? Give them a bigger enclosure, give them the more space. Something in that, if you got a male that's in that 6 to 8 foot range, that's honestly, say a big around as a Coke can, I think that if you're getting them out, giving them exercise, stuff like that, can they realistically live in a 4x2x2? They can. I think you start to get any bigger than that 8 foot, you need to jump up to a minimum of a 6 foot. And then if they start getting past 10, I think you need to go even past that. I guess for me, I'm an advocate for shelves. I'm an advocate for something to give them something to climb on and everything. But I think too, you got to look at it for what is your space? What do you have space for? So if you only have space for, say, a 4x2x2, either A, you get, some of the smallest bloodline, super dwarfs, and that'll fit. Like I said, I definitely think if you're going to go 4x2x2, you need to give them space because it's not, or give them out, right? Or go bigger, and the great thing with retics, at least the super dwarf side of it, is I'll tell you, they love vertical space. So, but if you're going to buy, say, you get a 4x2 by 4 foot high, you got to build shelving in there, right? And make that upper space usable, branches, stuff like that. You got to utilize that upper space if you're going to do it. Do I recommend more length or width or height? I think the length is going to be an important part, right? Like I said, anything you start getting past that 6 to 8 foot mark, that's going to be a smaller snake, about yay big, because they get 4x2 with a shelf in there. It still gives them space. It's not a lot. I would still, if you can give it to them 6x2, right? By 2 at a minimum, with shelves, stuff like that for them to climb on, hides, everything else. You start getting past that, bump it up, right? And I think if you give them an adequate amount of length, you can kind of alter or offset it with height. But like I said, definitely need, you got to put shelving or branches, you got to put something in there to utilize. Like if you buy, a 4 foot high cage, but give them no way to get up and utilize it, then it's just useless, in my opinion. So all right, Logan says the big adults don't climb as much as when they're young, for sure. So that's where, like, I think all right, let's say, for instance, you got a snake we're estimating, you buy it from me, I tell you, based on the parents, I think it's a male, it's going to get 8 to 10 foot. You're like, you want to buy a 6 by 6 foot by 3 foot by 4 foot high, right? As a baby, boom, you freaking, it's crazy. Hey, if you've got that enclosure for a baby, you're going to have to design it. And then as that thing grows, you're going to have to adjust it. So I agree with you. Big adults aren't going to climb as much, but that's where you're going to have to adjust those shelves, you know, and how you're putting them in there to give them that floor space that they can utilize. So, I mean, yeah. So Jim's like design something like 3 long bars they can lay and climb through. Yeah, stuff like that. You know, it's really easy to do stuff with PVC and everything. Or even you set those bars up eventually, you know, if you set them up where they're, say, side by side, for a while they can use it for climbing. And then once they get big where they're not really using it for climbing, you can put a shelf on and attach that. Now it's become a shelving unit for your bigger snake, you know? So I do it based on the individual. I find some would like a 2x2 and others prefer a 6x2x2. Yeah. James got a variety. So, and I think also your snakes they're gonna give you an idea. Some of them don't like big enclosures, but they want that time out. But when they're in their enclosure, they want a small space, you know? You go back to the episode we did with Nicole Tisdale, and she was talking about that with one of her snakes, right? And they get to free roam the house, everything. But our one snake likes a smaller enclosure, you know, and the other one's like a big one. So I wouldn't do the bars, just at a basket shelf. Do I feel UV lighting is necessary or more of a choice? I don't think so. I want to get into where I use UV lighting, as many snakes as I have. It's an expensive investment, but if they're out in the sun, obviously UV is not bad for them, right? It's a good thing. I think you offer it, put it on a timer, and let them have it. I think it's a great thing. You know, if they get it naturally, I don't see how it's a bad thing in captivity, for sure. So, but cool. Hey, man, I don't know. UV lighting, let me know. Do any of you all that are in the chat, do you guys have UV lighting with your retics where you notice a difference? I would be curious. But let me know. I don't know. I haven't done UV lighting, so I can't say on it, James, but I have the idea that if it's in nature, I don't think it's a bad thing. Okay, cool. Jim's got a lot of it. Jim, I'm gonna talk to you about it then. That way I can get to talk with you, and then I'll have a better answer for the future for sure. So well, listen, guys. Well, listen, I'm wrapping it up. I've got we hit about an hour. It's been a lot of fun, but I've got snakes I got to go down and clean. So Lauren and I have got to hit it. But I had a blast. Hopefully you guys learned a little something. I will tell you guys, we're going to try something a little bit new come after the new year. So we're going to get through December and hit these last couple through December, but I think we're going to come in with a new style of show. So keep your eyes peeled after the first of the year. We're going to start working that out. So love having you guys. Love talking with y'all. Wish Chris could have joined us, but he got stuck at work. So, but thanks guys, everybody coming out, listening to me. I really appreciate it. Love interacting with all y'all. So it's been a great time. Enjoy you guys' night. We'll catch you next time.
Welcome to the Retic Rundown, where the giants roam and the legends are found. Uncoil the truth, the wisdom is sound in the Retic Rundown. We're breaking new ground. From the jungle's deep to the captive scene, Retics rule the world if you know what I mean. With patterns so bold and sizes extreme, in the Retic Rundown, we're breaking new ground. Welcome to the Retic Rundown, where the giants roam and the legends are found. Uncoil the truth and let the wisdom resound. In the Retic Rundown, we're breaking new ground. Unlocking secrets of the Serpentine Kings, sharing knowledge, stories, everything it brings. From breeders to keepers, we pull the strings in the Retic Rundown. Hear the echo it rings. Welcome to the Retic Rundown, where the giants roam and the legends are found. Uncoil the truth and let the wisdom resound. In the Retic Rundown, we're breaking new Retic lovers.